you say you had a plan. Obviously, Joe Burrow was a big part of that plan. What was it like recruiting him and getting him? Because Joe Burrow's story, winning a Heisman, being the number 1 overall pick, being so good in the NFL, yes. That was not the Joe Burrow that you recruited. That was, the guy you recruited was the guy who couldn't get the starting job at Ohio State and, was a good football player, but maybe wasn't the guy that ended up being everything, all-world everything.
He developed. Thank God we had him for 2 years.
Yeah.
We needed that. Having, going to Miami, having the great quarterbacks we had at Miami. Then we go to USC, Carson Palmer, Matt Leinart, all those great. So I had a vision in my mind what we needed. So we had our spring ball. Back when spring game was on TV. Now they don't put them on TV because they poach their players, right?
Yeah.
And our quarterbacks didn't play well. And I got a son playing at McNeese. He called me, he said, Dad, our quarterback sucked today. I said, I know, I get it. He said, Daddy, there's a guy named Joe Burrow, transferred from Ohio State. You ought to look him up. So I went out and the coaching staff, Bill Bush, had been at Ohio State. I said, Bill, you know Joe Burrow? He says, Coach, if we get Joe Burrow, we're going to college football playoffs. I said, let's go get him. Now, Joe's coach, who recruited him, was at Cincinnati at the time. Joe's girlfriend was going to Cincinnati. When Joe came on the trip, guess where Joe was going? Cincinnati. Ain't no doubt, right? So Joe gets – I never had a recruit tell me this. Joe gets here, and I say, Joe, come on. He goes, Coach, I don't want to talk to you. I said, what? He said, Coach, I know you're a great recruiter. I don't want to hear all that bull. He said, I want to eat crawfish, and I want to talk football. And, if I didn't need a quarterback so bad, I wouldn't have responded this way. I said, okay. So I left them alone. The next day we had a football meeting. Jerry Sullivan was in there, who developed Justin Jefferson, has been in the NFL, Steve Ensminger, Joe's daddy, Joe's brother. We had about 10, 15 people in there. Derek was in there. It took me 5 minutes to figure out that Joe Burrow was the smartest guy in the room. No doubt. So, all right, number one, he's a smart quarterback. Jimmy Johnson told me that. Get a smart quarterback. So we go to eat crawfish. You might have hit the story. And Derek comes to me, Sharon comes to me and say, hey, Coach, there's no crawfish. You got to think on your feet, man. You got to adjust on the move, right? Mm-hmm. You got to be from Louisiana to do this. Hey, I called Boudreaux over there. Boudreaux's balling crawfish down at the other restaurant. Bring 40 pounds of crawfish balled and put it on the platter and give it to Joe. So he ate crawfish. So we go out. We have a meeting. I never told anybody this. We had a private meeting. I said, Joe, if you tell anybody this, you're lying. You're going to be my starting quarterback, but you got to earn it. I said, by the way, I got 2 receivers, man. Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. You haven't heard about them yet. So the next day we have a big breakfast. Derek's there. Our coaches' wives are there. So when the parents leave, we all stay and we say, okay, is he coming or not? Cincinnati. He's going to Cincinnati. But Joe said something. He said, I'm not taking any phone calls, and I'll decide on Thursday. Do you think I was going to wait till Thursday not to get in touch with Joe Burrow when my butt's on the line? Well, we made a connection with his brother Dan. And Dan talked a lot more than Joe. So I called Dan. Me and Derek called Dan the next day. I said, Dan, are you talking to Joe? Yeah. You answer your phone? Yeah. I said, you got to be my voice now, okay? I said, Dan, where do you think – come on, Dan, LSU or Cincinnati? It ain't even close. Dan gives me this old, well, Coach, I said, Dan, F that. Where you want – you love your brother? I said, Dan, do you – hey, grab down there, son. I said, grab down there in your pants. Oh, you got 2 of them, Dan? He goes, I'm grabbing them, Coach. I got them. I said, Dan, squeeze them son of a gun. Yeah, Coach, I'm squeezing. I said, call your brother, tell him to come down and shoot if you got 2 of them down there, boy. We tell that story. He was like, I got him, Coach. Squeeze him. I got him. He actually did it, man. And Dan was our voice to call Joe. Now, Joe said that wasn't his deciding, but I wasn't. How's a recruit going to tell you need him and he's not going to talk to nobody Thursday? Somebody's going to talk to him.
Right.
You got to compete.
If you're not talking to him, the other guy's talking.
Somebody's competing. You got to find the back door, man. You got to get on the ground. But, man, what a story. And then just out the blue on Thursday, I got a call. Joe Burrow said, Coach, I'm going to be LSU tight.
Oh, unbelievable.
How about that?
And Dan Burrow is also the guy who got Joe in with us.
Is that right?
EMT, yeah. He was a listener.
Well, hey, Dan's got
Dan's
two.
the man.
He got two. He squeezed them.
It's proven, yeah. You gotta recruit the brother sometimes.
Yeah.
That's a good word, right?
You got to know the champion. Who's the decision maker? That's what I always thought. That who is the decision maker in the process? I recruited the champion harder than I recruited the recruit.
So
Yeah, I think Joe is probably the decision maker in that, but also having like a trusted guy, his brother, put in a good word.
Yeah.
It's like every little bit helps.
That's right.
I love the fact that he just wouldn't talk to you when he got there. He gave you this stiff
Yeah.
arm. He's like,
Yeah.
I know you're going to convince me to come to LSU,
Yeah.
so I can't talk to you. You're too good at it.
And you know what? You got to respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, when Joe came in, he was the fourth-string quarterback. And I went and watched him. We were running tens with Tommy Moffitt, who, by the way, y'all know Tommy Moffitt did a great job for us, man. And I couldn't coach the players in the summer, but I could watch. Joe ran every 110 and won every 110.
Yeah.
And after that, Joe and Foster Morrow, who was Joe's host, went out throw a ball. And the rest of the team went with the quarterbacks that were there, obviously, right? But all of a sudden, Joe never lost a 110. Then all of a sudden, see a couple of guys go catch passes with Joe.
Yeah.
And Joe won the locker room himself.
Yeah.
What a tremendous job. Now, having 2 years with him helped.
Yeah, because I was going to say that we were talking about it before, but the first year was, he was good. He wasn't Heisman. And we went to the game. It was actually our first game that we went to LSU, and it lived up to the hype in terms of the crowd, the atmosphere. But you guys didn't score a point. You lost to Bama. You didn't score a point. But you said that was probably the most important loss that you had because it changed everything.
Yes. Through adversity, you learn the most. You should, right? And after that game, I went to Steve Esmaker, who's a stud. I think we won like 80% of our games with Steve. He's like John Wayne. He's a great guy. I said, Steve, we got to go to the spread. He goes, I agree. Well, we had a young guy named Joe Brady who came talk to us about RPOs in the summer, and we had some guys in the Saints. I said, hey, let's start working Joe. I said, Steve, are you receptive of me bringing in another guy, him teaches the spread, and y'all work together? And he did, and it worked out perfect.
Yeah.